Hello, welcome to Products API, Coding Ninja's API assignment, where all these APIs are as per the question, standard CRUD request of products. This one just being a addition, just getting a product by product ID. So broadly, this project involves caching and a database layer. So I just want to discuss the caching flow as well. There are read and write related cases. So firstly, let's just consider the read case. Even first amongst them is where the user requests something, some kind of get request, which is actually cached. So when a backend receives that request, it will try to forward that to cache, and since the results are present in cache, we just respond to the client. We haven't talked to our MongoDB database right now. Caching was sufficient. Another case, when some get request was made by a user, but the results were uncached. So in that case, a node will again try to reach our REDIS cache, and which will respond that these results are not in our cache. Then our backend will receive, we go to the source of truth, MongoDB database, it will receive a response, update a cache, get the caching response, and update the user. Lastly, the write requests, so update or delete requests from a user, when they come to us, now the cache will definitely not be valid because it's an update or write request. So we directly go to the source of truth, database, we get the database response, and now since we have changed the thing, we have to invalidate our cache. So we either update it or delete the cache over here. Once the caching response gives us, then we respond back to the user that update was successful. In terms of code, this is basically the starting point where we are configuring our course, we are configuring our routes, adding some default error handler over here and some page not found, and then initializing the database. And when the database gets connected, we as a callback, we will start our backend server. So looking at the broad routes over here, that will give us a better idea. So these are the get requests, post, patch, and delete requests for our product. Note that I am using here some kind of middlewares. So one middleware for, let's say, validation of the get request. This, let's say, the product ID should be present here, or that the cache, if the cache has stored some value, then it should return the value from this cache itself. It shouldn't reach there. So middleware concepts are used, and we can go in these respective controller classes, but I want to show, let's say, the middlewares only. So if we check this middleware, it basically receives whatever type of query you wanted to make, tries to get make the request to Redis to get the results from there. If we have any results, we send it back. If not, we carry it to the next middleware. If there is any error in caching, we just report to the user that there is some error. So that was one of our middlewares of caching. Similarly, there is a validation factory which can be configured as a higher order function depending upon what kind of parameter you want to put, and it will accordingly use some kind of validation schemas which are stored here. So these are different validation schemas which will get used here in different ways, and exactly which kind of parameter or query or a body, where is that stored. So we'll be able to validate our body or parameter or query parameters which is passing through here. And finally, if we reach here, that means that our validation is okay and our caching is correct. Our caching must have not had that thing. So let us see what are the broad requests here. First request is just getting the product by its ID. So we have reached here means we are valid. So we just try to request from our database. If no product is found, then we just return an error from here. But if something is found, then we firstly save it in our database. So again, first database call, and then saving in our cache, and then finally giving the response. Similarly for products, like all the products. So here again we search our database, and since we reached here because cache must have not had it, so we should populate our cache and then send a response. Then now write related queries like creation or updation. So let's say some creation request was given to us. We know these body parameters from there. This is also valid because the validator is running already before as a middleware. So now we create a new product, we save it in our database, then inside our cache we invalidate it because we have created a new product. So our particular cache, let's say of all the products, which stored all the products, that is invalid, so we have to delete that. Then we are returning the response from here. So now once we have deleted this thing, that is like all the products, so when does it get populated again? So basically, since we deleted that, and any time other time someone else request get products, then we must have reached here. We must have not returned from our cache because cache doesn't have anything. So at this stage itself, and any next get products request, we will come here, request from our database, and then freshly save our cache with the latest updated products. So this is basically the create product type, where we are invalidating cache because of some write request. Similarly, update request, where we also have some validators for this number, like I'm also using a range of number. Let's say your final product quantity should be between a certain range of, let's say, 0 to 10,000. So these kind of validators are running beforehand this, but let's say all of those things are valid, then it comes here, checks whether the product even exists or not, and then basically tries to see what is the possible amount after the update. So it will try to parse the number from whatever number it receives and whatever is the existing quantity, and it will check whether this is greater than 10,000 and or is it less than 0. Both of these I am assuming as an error case, so this is out of range and I'm complaining and getting out. If finally the updated quantity is correct, then we actually update it, save it in a MongoDB database, from an object which we will return, and which we will also save in our Redis cache, because this product is updated now. So anytime a person requests for this particular product, we will return this object without going back again in the database. And since the product is updated, so our list of all the products, notice here there is S and there is no S here, that's why this is all the products cache. We also bust it out, we dump it, but yes, we do update our single product cache here. Similarly, for delete request, we just make a database call on our product ID. If the product, does it even exist or not? If it does, then we just delete it by its ID. Then since the product is deleted, we need to bust the cache from all the products and on this particular product, and if successful, we return successful response. One thing which might be lingering is like, what is this cache? How do we get all these different caches? So cache is stored as a key value pair, where there is a key and then there is a value which we want to store. So let's say there is some information about all the list of products. So essentially these functions are storing, let's say, the save function. This is basically getting the key first from here somehow, and then going to store a response object here against it. How does it get the key? We can check that. So it is receiving a request object, and it is receiving which kind of query type it is. But once we go inside, it's basically a type of query which is defined here, and accordingly what query type was sent, we just string interpolate a key. So let's say you requested about some particular product, use the product and the product ID. Product ID is received from that request object itself. This must have passed either in params or query or body. That's how we get the key, and against this key we will store that object, and similarly for all the products. That concludes the demo. Thank you very much.